There's two misconceptions about the sovereign movement, and one is that people think that the sovereign movement are just a bunch of guys that don't believe in the law. They're anarchists, just want to get rid of all law, all rules and regulations, and they don't want to pay their bills, so they're not responsible. And then the second misconception is that, well, they're just a bunch of hippies. They believe in a better world without these rules and regulations, and they're trying to build this better world. But it's just a fairy tale. It's impossible. They're just dreamers, a bunch of hippies. And these two misconceptions are just not true, because a sovereign society would actually be more responsible, not less. Hi there, my name is Toby, and on this channel I talk about the body dynamics, and I talk about the energy system, the life force, and how we can optimize our life to improve this, to become more efficient, in other words, have more energy. And this connects to society, the system we live in, the world we live in, because once you worked out how to get better energy for yourself, you want that for everyone else. You want to build a better world. And the idea of a better world, you can call that a sovereign society. A sovereign society. See, what is a sovereign? There's a lot of misconceptions about the sovereign movement. And for me, a sovereign connects very much to your energy. Because I, as a living being, a soul, a spirit, I have autonomy. I am the sovereign of my own energy, my own aura, my own personal space. And this extends outwards. And the basis of this understanding is really the basis of what a sovereign is. A sovereign is somebody that understands. They are self-aware. They understand themselves, and they understand a certain amount of natural law. That we are individuals, and as individuals, spiritual individuals, or non-physical individuals, we are also creators. We can create. We can create in this world. And that is what makes us sovereign. There's two misconceptions about the sovereign movement. And one is that people think that the sovereign movement are just a bunch of guys that don't believe in the law. They're anarchists, just want to get rid of all law, all rules and regulations, and they don't want to pay their bills. So they're not responsible. And then the second misconception is that, well, they're just a bunch of hippies. They believe in a better world without these rules and regulations, and they're trying to build this better world. But it's just a fairy tale. It's impossible. They're just dreamers, a bunch of hippies. And these two misconceptions are just not true, because a sovereign society would actually be more responsible, not less. Because a sovereign society means sovereigns, and a sovereign is an individual that understands the natural law, and they are following it. You have to follow it. As a sovereign, you must have respect for the other sovereigns. You also realize everyone else is a sovereign. And we all have to get along. We have to get along. But there is a way of organizing society such that we do not compromise our own personal inalienable rights. In other words, we must all have a system of democracy that we can clearly understand and follow. And we follow it with this understanding, not through force. You see, what we've got now, essentially, the state or the system has overstepped its mark. It's now no longer working for the good of the people. It's working for the good of the corporations. In fact, everything is a corporation. It's all about money now. Nothing to do with law and order. So the sovereign movement actually want to bring back law and order. It's exactly the opposite of what people think. The sovereign's saying the world we live in now is lawless. There's no law happening now. This is all legal. This is corporations trying to make money by any means necessary. It's what I call the rules of acquisition. The corporations are just, their single purpose is to accumulate money and power, nothing else. And that is what is running the world. So the sovereign society would have law and order, true natural law, true common law, and we would all have to respect that. So there will be rules and regulations. But these would be with the knowledge and the agreement of the public, the people. In other words, a true democracy. And the same for the financial system. In a sovereign society, the financial system would be a true free market economy. A true one. At the moment, we haven't got that. We have not got a free market economy. It's highly manipulated, highly controlled, because the money, the fiat currency itself, is highly manipulated, highly controlled. There are two schools of thought in the sovereign movement. One school of thought believes that historically we were doing this. We were better off. We had a constitution, well, we still do, and we have the Magna Carta. And back in those days, the monarchy or the system of government, they realised they were just public servants and they were working for the people genuinely. So there was a time when we were living under closer to real common law, and we should go back to that sort of a thing. And then there's another school of thought in the sovereign movement that says, oh, no, it doesn't matter what was written down, the Constitution, the Magna Carta, these were all manipulations. These were all written by people that are trying to control the masses for their own advantage. In other words, common law was for the commoners, the common people, and it was written by the elite. So it didn't apply to them. And that's a big complaint we got now. We can see these two level of law, two level of enforcement. It applies to some people, but not other people. So how can that be? It can only be if nothing to do with the law now. They are following instructions. See, the clearest way of seeing this is the actual police themselves. At the moment now, police are really just policy enforcers. They are enforcing corporate policy. They themselves are corporations. Everything is a corporation. So they have shareholders. So the police will answer to the shareholders. They have to. It's all about making money. Their corporation must be profitable. It's got nothing to do with law and order. In a sovereign society, you would have a sovereign constable. So the police were called constables. They're supposed to be constable. And that idea is a constable is supposed to be autonomous. They're supposed to have intelligence. They're supposed to be well trained in that. And they can deal with the public in any situation. And they can analyse it and deal with it on the spot with their intelligence and understanding. And that's much more likely to be fair and square and actually keep an eye on the real situation and uphold the law in a much better way, because you're taking everything into account. They've got that autonomy. They don't have to answer to anyone. They're not following instructions per se. They're not going out with a quota. You must get me 10 arrests today so that we can write 10 tickets and have 10 fines. They're not salesmen like we've got now. So a sovereign society would have these sovereign constables. And you would have groups organising at councils, parliaments. But again, it works in a small society will have a small council that is elected by that group, that village, for example. So they know exactly what's going on and they're organising it for their own little community. Then you'd have, bigger ones for bigger areas until you've got international groups. It still is a system of council, looking after the people. But the people elected, they have to be sovereigns, and the sovereign people have to know what they're doing when they elect these public servants who are charged with looking after the people, the group of people. And it's got to be done properly in the law. It's done through a trust. Essentially, the people create a trust, and they appoint trustees. And those trustees are the councillors or the parliament. And their job is to look after, the day-to-day maintenance of society. But they work for us. We, as the people, will be the grantors, the executors of the trust. They follow our instructions. In other words, we have a say in what these rules and regulations will be. And we're also the beneficiaries of this trust. We have to benefit from the work that they're doing. And if they don't do the work we give them, we tell them to do, it's in our power to bring them down, sack them. No, 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 you're not doing the job we told you to do. You're not looking after us, the people, anymore. You're out. So this is what a democracy, a true democracy, is supposed to be. And in the ancient days, in Greece, in the old days, days of Plato, Aristotle, Socrates, all those guys, so these are the people talking about true democracy. It's long been a discussion. How do you have a true democracy, a fair one, without corruption? And in those days, you weren't even supposed to get involved until you were older, I think over 50. So you've got to be a serious-minded individual with experience in life before you have a vote, before you take part in an election. Nowadays, he wants to get younger and younger. Why do they want the youngsters to vote? The easiest to manipulate. So that's why you can't have the youngsters. They're too naive. They don't understand anything yet. It's got to be more experienced people. It's got to be more experienced people that take part in a democracy. In other words, sovereigns. And of course, not everyone in society is a sovereign. I'm saying the words, it's still an ideal, because not everyone in society is self-aware and responsible. And again, that's the problem we've got. We are living in a society that is actively promoting irresponsible people, narcissism. It is actually promoting crime. It's hard to see it, but it is promoting crime, because that is a business. It is promoting conflict, international conflict. These conflicts are not arbitrary. They're all to do with money. They're to do with assets. They're to do with rebuilding the world in the name of corporations, in the name of profit. So this is all part of the system. This is all created by the system, and then the system tells you, oh, look at this terrible world we live in, all this crime, all this, violence, all these wars. We need a system of law and order. You better vote for us. Okay, we vote for you. We need your control. You don't realise the system has created all this. It's irresponsible. It is breaking the law. And it's breaking the law in the name of the law. And the sovereign movement are people who've realised this, and they're trying to rectify this. And the first way we do it is just try and build our own centre, our own sovereign mentality. And from there we can extend that just to our little life. What we do in life, the work we do, our interactions, we try and do them honourably within the common law, within the natural law. See, a sovereign is duty bound to follow the law. They're not so-called anarchists. They're not against law and order. They are for it. Very important to understand this. And in fact, they're duty bound to point out when the law is being broken. Duty bound. And that's what they are seeing. The system we are living in is breaking the common law, breaking the natural law, and they are duty bound to point that out and rectify it. So really, we've got to take this sovereign movement very, very seriously. It's very important, and it works together with this body efficiency training, because it works together with your energy. And that is your first dominion. A sovereign has their own dominion, their own space. They can have their own court, because they are aware of when the law is being broken on them. Hang on, you're breaking the natural law on me. You are harming me. Therefore, I have my own court, and I'm going to call this up. I'm going to rectify this. I'm going to call in a jury to tell them my case, and rectify the fact that you have broken the law on me. And that dominion, that sovereign dominion, is your aura as well. This is your energy field. So it works in a spiritual way, an esoteric way, and a practical, lawful way in society, in a society. And that's if you can understand that, and if we all learnt this from a child, for example, we would live in a very different world. And it is possible to have this better world. It really is. There is technology now that can give us a chance to create this. But people are waking up, and whether we see it in our lifetime or 2 or 3 generations' time, it is most certainly possible. And I do believe there was a time in the past that we did live in a better world, a better, freer society, a sovereign society, where people were more awake, aware, and responsible for each other. It was more about cooperation than competition. It was not just about money. Money is not really a thing anyway. It shouldn't be a thing. We've made life all about money. It's not about money. What is it about? We've got to think about it. What is it about if it's not about money? And a sovereign society knows that and is living in that way. It's not about money. Money is a useful tool. We use it, but we don't get used by it. It's different. It's different. So I hope this made sense, and I wanted to clear this up because these common misconceptions are everywhere, and people dismiss the sovereign movement too quickly. Really, the sovereign movement is the only solution for a true democracy, a true free market economy. And it is the movement that is fighting against corruption. It is all about following the law. Do no harm, do not steal, do not cheat. If we all followed that, we would be living in a better world. And we have to follow it from our conscience, our soul. That is a sovereign. A sovereign is guided by their conscience, not guided by manipulations and money. Their conscience, very important. This is important work, important to think about and research. And I'll leave links below to my lecture series on natural law. So I'll talk about this in more detail. Okay, thank you so much for listening. And I look forward to seeing you in any of these other videos here.